Greetings, Professor, student colleagues, amateur videographers, and my 300 trillion YouTube followers. My original research question for assignment 5 and beforehand asked, how might cross-cultural exchange opportunities benefit pre-adolescents or those younger than 12 with conduct disorders? My research question was situated in the knowledge that conduct disorder, as diagnostic criteria for the DSM shows, is often diagnosed because of neglect. Social inclusion, in my assumption, therefore could offset neglect and conduct disorder. As one who considers himself to be open-minded, I was influenced by this course and others to change my inquiry question or approach. My current inquiry question: what will be the cognitive, behavioral, and emotional impact on young children as they engage in cross-cultural associations with other young children? And the purpose of this phenomenological study will be to understand the efficacy of cross-cultural associations among young children. At this stage in the research, judging the emotional, behavioral, and cognitive impact on children, so looking for patterns in the way that they deal with each other, and the impact that it has on each child, will be the function of this study. It is my hope that such a study will theoretically lay a basis cross-cultural exchange program for pre-adolescents. My first inquiry question intended to also show a theoretical basis for a cross-cultural education program for children under 12, but would do so only through meta-analysis of existing sociological literature. In the examination of my new research question, I will be also conducting a meta-analysis of the literature, but I want to conduct a qualitative exercise working with youths as well. This exercise would include a pre- and post-assessment by the children's teachers and parents. The assessment tool that I think I will utilize is called the Achenbach system of empirically based assessment. This Achenbach system asks parents and teachers questions like, what is the child's favorite sport, the child's favorite hobby, the child's favorite group or club, how much time does your child spend engaging in these activities relative to other children, less than average, average, more than average, don't know. This system also asks about close friends and the time that the child spends with that friend. Does the child have diagnosed mental health concerns? And then goes on to ask a series of questions about the child's development and engagement in certain activities. That section is roughly 60 questions, and the questions are answered on a 0 to 2 scale, 2 meaning that the child engages in the activity regularly, and 0 means the child doesn't engage in that type of activity at all. The Achenbach system is often utilized with mental health counselors who want school teachers and parents' assessment of the child's behavior. The mental health counselor could utilize the data received to examine whether or not the child has depressive anxiety problems, somatic problems, attention deficit problems, hyperactivity problems, oppositional defiant problems, conduct problems. I will not be using the Achenbach test for that reason. While I will not be using it as a diagnostic tool for assessing children's mental health, I think it still provides a good measure of the behavioral, emotional, and social patterns before the intervention, and then being able to compare those patterns after the intervention. All of that will be explained to parents and educators, allowing consent for children's participation in such a study. So here is my plan for the qualitative portion of my dissertation as I see it now. I live in a predominantly white, small, rural town. I will go to the elementary school there and give 10 or so 5-year-old children tablets. Of course, the children's parents would have to consent to my doing so and have filled out pre-testing materials beforehand. Then these 10 or so most likely white kids will connect on Skype and talk to other children internationally. On the other end, I will have set up an advisor who can hand out tablets to children with whom the children here will be speaking. If I have these children meet on Skype once a week for 10 to 15 minutes, and I have these children engage in this process for a 4 to 6 week period, it is my assumption that the children will naturally become more empathetic and engage with other children, reach out to other children that they don't share common interests with or that they would have approached beforehand. The town where I live, Caledonia, New York, is 94% white, only 3.5% African American. and then the remaining is the other races, and this is according to the census data. With less than 1,000 kids in the entire K through 12 school system of this town, as we have some kids bust in from out of town, it is theoretically possible that white children could go through all 13 years of education and never associate with people outside of their own race. One could argue that this type of segregation, inherently built into the system, allows for children the opportunity to become racists, bigots, or certainly biased as they grow into adulthood. John Oliver, on his October 30th, 2016 Last Week Tonight show, said, "While this always gets framed as an issue about parents and their children, it's actually about adults and everybody, because kids grow up, and those little doctors, soldiers, and police officers and superheroes that come asking you for candy on Halloween, well, in a decade or so, they might be actual doctors, police, and assistant directors of human resources." And then Oliver went on to say, "And there are massive and multiple benefits for all of us if they interacted a lot more from an early age." From John Oliver to NPR to the U.S. federal government, they all could say and show relevant data that concludes that white children don't suffer from going to integrated schools. Children, specifically African American children, close the achievement gap significantly when they are given the opportunity to attend more diverse schools. White children that engage in culturally diverse programming are shown to be more empathetic and less prejudiced. The problem is that too many of these programs focused on cultural exchange happen only when the children are already teenagers, or most of the time when the child's already in college. I argue that the engagement of pre-adolescent children in a cross-cultural education program will produce adults who are more empathetic, less prejudiced, people who don't want borders. I mean, what is a border in the 21st century anyway? All of that being said, my inquiry question: what will be the cognitive, behavioral, and emotional impact on young children as they engage in cross-cultural associations with other young children, will hopefully lay the groundwork for a theoretic cross-cultural exchange program for children under 12. Thank you.
Shut it off.